All right. So, why do you want to be a physician? Why medicine seems like it should be an easy interview question, right? I mean, you've already spent 5,300 characters in your personal statement essentially answering that question. But I think what makes it difficult in an interview is that there's a big difference between answering it in a really long essay and then answering why medicine in just a 2 or 3 minute spoken response. And what I find people do wrong with why medicine in an interview is they fall into the trap of going into story time. They'll tell a really long story about a patient interaction they had that was really meaningful, or a physician who helped them in the past, or a physician that they shadowed that they really admired. And it might end up being a nice, inspiring story, but more often than not, it gets tangential and then it fails to actually answer the why medicine or why do you want to be a physician question. And I think if you keep your answer a little more expository rather than so narrative, it'll be easier for you to actually answer the question within the time constraints and keep your answer focused. And part of my motivation and part of my philosophy here with coaching you is that I want to help you avoid the worst follow up question for this particular interview question, which is, oh, why don't you just be a social worker? Or if you like helping people in patient relationships, why don't you just be a nurse? Or, oh, if you like science so much, why don't you just be a researcher? This would be a really bad follow-up question to receive to your why medicine response, because it would mean that you didn't really answer it convincingly and that they felt like you were maybe better suited for another career. And that's why you want to spend the majority of your response just distinguishing medicine from other careers and showing that it's singularly the right profession for you. Now, I have 3 tricks that I think work really well to help with this why medicine response. So let's get into those now. Okay, let's talk about the 3 tricks that I think will really help you answer why medicine in a convincing way. So the first trick is the selfless-selfish dichotomy. So the way that this works is you want to show both selfless and selfish reasons for entering medicine, because most why medicine responses are just selfless. They'll just say something like, oh, I want to help people. And that's great. That is a key component of being a doctor. But you also want to make sure you're explaining to the interviewer how the career is going to fulfill and stimulate you on an everyday basis beyond just helping someone. So it's really good to bring up the intellectual stimulation that the career will provide in terms of the diagnostic process, the treatment process. I think the lifelong learning of the career as medicine evolves as a field. You want to bring these in as intellectual complements to maybe the emotional fulfillment of helping people. And that way they can see how it's not only going to be the best way for you to help people, maybe the most influential way to help people, but also the most inspiring and stimulating way for you to help people. And just creating those 2 sides of the coin and creating that selfless, selfish dichotomy really helps make it more rhetorically persuasive. And it breaks the answer down into kind of 2 easy groups, 2 easy facets that you can cover in the time that you have. So try to add a little selfishness to your why medicine answer, and I bet it'll get a lot better. All right, let's talk about the second trick that I have to help you answer why medicine, and that's called the why medicine stew. The idea here is that you're putting so many ingredients into the pot and stirring it up, one ingredient after another, that the final recipe could only be medicine when all is said and done. And I think this works really well for people who want to say a lot of different things in their response. But that's okay, because to a certain degree, the more criteria you pour on, the more ingredients you throw in the stew, the harder it is for the interviewer to see the answer as anything but medicine. So this could be something like, medicine is the only career that would combine my love for applied science, my passion for establishing long-term relationships, the ability to be an educator and mentor, the flexibility to do research throughout my career, and the unparalleled lifelong learning that comes from a field that is always evolving and that you always need to stay updated on. All of this together, I think I can only find to such an extent in medicine. And right there, it's actually already pretty hard to deny that it's the right career for you. It'd be hard for them to follow that up and be like, oh, I think you could get all that out of being a nurse, or you could get all that out of being a researcher. You'd be sort of negating, canceling that follow-up question that we're dreading and we don't want you to get. Okay, the third and final trick I have for you to answer why medicine is what I call confirm by contrast. So the idea of confirm by contrast is kind of how it sounds. You confirm medicine by directly contrasting it with other paths you could have taken. This is really smart because it shows that you actually did consider those other paths sometime at some point in your life, and that you've reflected on it and decided that medicine is better. And that way, again, we're negating that dreaded follow-up question of why don't you just do something else? So with confirmed by contrast, you could see how it might work with research. For example, you would say something along the lines of, as much as I've enjoyed research, I've thought about doing that path, and it just feels like it'd be too detached from the people that I'm helping. And I would really want to be in a position where I could apply the findings of research directly towards patient cases, all while bonding with them in the patient-provider relationship. So that's why I like medicine better than research, because it would incorporate the science and the problem solving and the critical thinking that I've gotten out of research, but it also gave me this key component that's crucial for my emotional fulfillment. You could also see how it would work with a different healthcare career. You could say, I've actually shadowed nurses. I've even worked as a CNA in the past. And I love the close patient relationships that nursing provides. But I find myself feeling limited in my scope and my ability to help patients on a larger scale. So I would really want the extra training that you would get from being a physician in terms of diagnosing conditions and having an influence on treatment from start to finish. Right there, again, by directly comparing medicine to a field like nursing, you've made your answer more reflective, more insightful. It's not just a matter of saying, I like science and I want to help people. It's a matter of, hey, I've really thought about all of these paths I could take, and I've thought about why medicine would be the best one for me and why it would singularly be the most fulfilling career for me. So those are my tips for how to answer why medicine. So remember, don't fall into the trap of going into story time unless you're really going to make sure you answer the central question of why medicine, why do you want to be a physician? And then beyond that, try to use my 3 tricks: the selfless-selfish dichotomy, the why medicine stew, and the confirmed by contrast. All of these are designed to make sure that the interviewer has no reservations or no doubts that medicine is the best career for you. So use them to your advantage, and I think you'll do great in this question.